The knock on Emma's apartment door came at 9:47 on a Tuesday night, and when she opened it, the past 5 years collapsed into a single breathless moment. Sebastian Pierce stood in the hallway wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, his dark hair slightly disheveled, as though he had been running his hands through it. His gray eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her grip the doorknob harder. He looked older, more mature, with fine lines around his eyes that had not been there before. But he was still devastatingly handsome in that effortless way that had first caught her attention when she was 23, and stupid enough to think love conquered everything. "Emma," he said, and her name in his mouth sounded like a prayer and an accusation all at once. She should have slammed the door. That would have been the smart thing to do. Instead, she stood frozen, her heart hammering against her ribs like it was trying to escape her chest. "What are you doing here?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "How did you even find me?" "Can I come in?" He glanced down the hallway as though worried someone might see him. "Please, I just need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about." "Emma, please." Something in his voice cracked, and that tiny fissure in his composure undid her more than any grand gesture could have. "I know I do not have the right to ask, but I am asking anyway. 5 minutes. That is all I need." Against every instinct screaming at her to protect herself, she stepped aside. He walked past her, and the familiar scent of his cologne brought back memories she had spent years trying to bury. Her small apartment must have looked cramped to him after the penthouse they had shared briefly, but she had worked hard for this space, for the independence it represented. Sebastian turned to face her as she closed the door. They stood there in her tiny living room, 5 years and 1,000 unspoken words between them. "You look good," he said quietly. "Different. Your hair is longer." Emma touched her hair self-consciously. She had cut it short after leaving him, trying to become someone new, but it had grown past her shoulders now. "Sebastian, you did not come here to talk about my hair." "No." He took a deep breath. "I came here to tell you that I have thought about you every single day for the past 5 years. I came here to say that walking away was the biggest mistake of my life, and I am asking for one more chance." The words hit her like a physical blow. She had imagined this conversation 1,000 times in the first year after she left, had scripted his apologies and her responses, but now that it was actually happening, all those imagined speeches evaporated. "You cannot just show up here after all this time," she said, hating how her voice trembled. "You cannot just walk back into my life and expect everything to be okay. I know that. I know I hurt you. I know I let my father control me, let the board dictate my choices, let everyone tell me what I should want instead of fighting for what I actually wanted." He stepped closer, and she forced herself not to retreat. "But I am not that person anymore, Emma. I spent 5 years building something that is completely mine, proving to myself and everyone else that I do not need my father's approval or his company. And now I am here, asking you for something I should have asked for 5 years ago. Give me another chance. Let me prove that I can be the man you needed me to be." Emma's eyes burned with unshed tears. "Do you have any idea what it was like? I left everything for you, Sebastian. I changed my entire life, moved into your world, and then your father looked at me like I was dirt on his shoe, and you just stood there. You let him tell you that I was not good enough, that I was some gold digger trying to trap you, and you believed him. I did not believe him. Then why did you not fight for me?" The words burst out of her, raw and painful. "Why did you let me walk away?" Sebastian ran a hand through his hair, frustration and regret warring on his face. "Because I was a coward." Because I was 28 years old and still trying to win my father's approval, still trying to prove I was worthy of running Pierce Industries. Because I told myself that letting you go was the mature thing to do, that I was protecting you from a life of being scrutinized and judged by people like him. He met her eyes. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared that he was right, that I was not enough for you, that eventually you would realize you deserved better than me. The honesty in his voice shook something loose inside her. She had spent so long being angry at him, convinced he had chosen money and status over love, that she had never considered he might have been struggling with his own fears. "I need you to leave," she said, but the words lacked conviction. "Emma, please, this is too much. You cannot just show up after 5 years and expect me to have an answer right now." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I built a life without you. I moved on, or at least I tried to." "Did you?" The question was soft, but it cut through her defenses. "Because I could not." "I tried, Emma. God knows I tried. I dated other women, threw myself into work, traveled to places we had talked about seeing together, but none of it meant anything without you." She wanted to tell him that she had moved on completely, that he meant nothing to her now, but the lie stuck in her throat. Instead, she walked to the door and opened it. "I need time to think. You cannot just expect me to forgive everything because you show up with pretty words." Sebastian nodded slowly, defeat clouding his features. He walked to the door, then paused beside her. "I am staying at the Meridian Hotel, room 2408. If you decide you want to talk, I will be there. And Emma," he waited until she looked at him, "I am not giving up this time. I will wait as long as it takes." After he left, Emma closed the door and slid down to the floor, her legs too shaky to hold her up. She pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to stop the tears, but they came anyway, 5 years of suppressed emotion flooding out all at once. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it from her pocket and saw a text from her best friend and roommate, Claire. "Working late at the gallery. Be home around midnight. Want me to pick up Thai food?" Emma typed back a quick response, then sat in the silence of the apartment, Sebastian's words echoing in her mind. She had spent so long convincing herself that leaving him had been the right choice, that their relationship had been doomed from the start. But seeing him again brought back all those feelings she had tried to bury. The way her heart raced when he smiled at her, the safety she had felt in his arms, the future she had imagined before it all fell apart. She stood up and walked to her bedroom, pulling a shoebox from the back of her closet. Inside were the remnants of their relationship that she had not been able to throw away. Photos of them laughing at a beach in Malibu, a dried flower from the first bouquet he had ever given her, a ticket stub from a Broadway show they had seen together. She picked up one of the photos. They both looked so young, so happy, so convinced that love was enough. But it had not been enough, had it? Not when his father had called her into his office and told her in cold, clinical terms that she was a distraction, that she would ruin Sebastian's future, that if she truly loved him, she would walk away before she destroyed everything he had worked for. Not when Sebastian had stood there during their last fight, torn between his father's expectations and his feelings for her, unable to make a choice until she had made it for him. She had packed her things while he was at a board meeting and left a note that said simply, "I am sorry. I cannot do this anymore." Then she had blocked his number, deleted her social media accounts, and moved to a different part of the city where no one knew her as Sebastian Pierce's girlfriend. It had been the most painful thing she had ever done, but she had convinced herself it was necessary. Clean breaks hurt less in the long run, or so she had told herself. Now he was back, and every carefully constructed wall she had built was crumbling. Claire came home earlier than expected, bursting through the door with her usual energy. She took one look at Emma's face and dropped the bags of food on the counter. What happened? Sebastian was here. Sebastian, as in billionaire ex-boyfriend Sebastian. Claire's eyes widened. What did he want? He wants another chance. Emma laughed bitterly. He said he has thought about me every day for 5 years and he wants to prove he is different now. Claire sat down beside her on the couch. What did you say? I told him I needed time to think. But Claire, seeing him again, she trailed off, unable to put the chaos of her emotions into words. Do you still love him? I never stopped. The admission felt like releasing a breath she had been holding for years. I tried so hard to get over him, but I could not. Every man I dated, I compared to him. Every relationship ended because I was still holding on to something that was already gone. So what are you going to do? Emma shook her head. I do not know. How do I trust him again? How do I know he will not choose his family over me the next time things get difficult? You talk to him, Claire said simply. You tell him your fears and you listen to what he has to say, and then you decide if the risk is worth it. She squeezed Emma's hand. But Emma, you have been half alive for 5 years. Maybe it is time to stop protecting yourself and start living again. Emma did not sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying every moment of her relationship with Sebastian. They had met at a charity gala where she had been working as an event coordinator. He had spilled champagne on her clipboard, and instead of being annoyed, she had laughed. They had talked for hours, and when he had asked for her number, she had not known who he was. She had found out later, of course, when a Google search revealed that Sebastian Pierce was the heir to Pierce Industries, a multinational conglomerate worth billions. By then, she had already fallen halfway in love with him. The first few months had been magical. Sebastian had been attentive and romantic, taking her to intimate restaurants where they could talk without interruption, surprising her with weekend getaways, making her feel like she was the center of his universe. He had been different from any man she had ever dated, not just because of his wealth, but because of the way he listened when she talked, the way he remembered small details about her life, the way he looked at her like she was the most fascinating person in the world. But then his father had found out about her. Gregory Pierce had been furious that his son was seriously dating someone who was not from their social circle, someone who could not bring business connections or political advantages to the family. The pressure had started subtly at first. Comments about how Sebastian needed to focus on the company, invitations to events where beautiful socialites were conveniently seated next to him, pointed questions about Emma's background and family. Sebastian had tried to shield her from it, but the strain had begun to show. He had become more withdrawn, more stressed, torn between his love for her and his sense of duty to his family legacy. And then his father had made his move, calling Emma to his office and making it clear that she had 2 choices. Leave Sebastian voluntarily or watch as his father systematically destroyed the career she had worked so hard to build. He'd had the connections to do it, and they both knew it. She had left because she loved Sebastian too much to let him lose everything for her. But she had also left because some part of her had been angry that he had not fought harder, that he had let his father have so much power over his life, over their lives. At dawn, Emma made her decision. She got dressed, grabbed her keys, and drove to the Meridian Hotel. The lobby was quiet at 6 in the morning, just a few business travelers checking in or out. She took the elevator to the 24th floor, her heart pounding harder with each passing floor. When she reached room 2408, she stood outside the door for a full minute before knocking. Sebastian opened the door almost immediately, as though he had been awake and waiting. He was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair messy from sleep, or the lack of it. He looked surprised to see her, but also hopeful in a way that made her chest ache. "Can I come in?" she asked. He stepped aside wordlessly. His hotel suite was enormous, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She walked to the windows, needing the moment to gather her thoughts. "I loved you so much it terrified me," she said, not looking at him. "When your father told me I was ruining your life, part of me believed him. Because how could someone like me be enough for someone like you? How could I compete with a legacy that had been built over generations?" "You did not need to compete with anything," Sebastian said, moving to stand beside her. "You were never the problem, Emma. My inability to stand up to my father was the problem. My fear of disappointing him, of failing to live up to expectations, that was the problem. So what changed?" She finally turned to look at him. "Why now, after 5 years?" "I left Pierce Industries." The words hung in the air between them. 3 years ago. My father wanted me to marry Vanessa Hartwell to merge our companies. She was beautiful, accomplished, from the right family, everything he thought I needed. But I could not do it. I could not spend my life with someone I did not love, could not stop comparing everyone to you. So I walked away from everything. The company, the money, the name. I started my own business in renewable energy. It took 2 years to get it off the ground, and last year we finally turned our first profit. It is nowhere near the scale of Pierce Industries, but it is mine. I built it without my father's money or connections. Emma stared at him. "You walked away from a billion-dollar company." "I walked away from a prison," he corrected. "And I should have done it 5 years ago. I should have chosen you over everything else. That is my biggest regret, Emma. Not that I lost you, but that I did not fight for you, that I let you believe you were not worth fighting for." The pain in his voice was raw and real. She wanted to believe him, wanted to take the leap and trust that this time would be different, but fear held her back. "How do I know you will not hurt me again?" she whispered. "How do I know that when things get hard, you will not choose the easy path? You do not." He turned to face her fully. "I cannot promise that I will not make mistakes, or that loving me will always be easy. But I can promise that I will never let anyone make you feel less than extraordinary again. I can promise that I will choose you every single day, no matter what. And I can promise that I will spend the rest of my life proving that you are the most important thing in my world." Emma felt something crack inside her chest, some protective barrier she had built around her heart. "I am scared," she admitted. "I am scared too." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face in his hands. "I am terrified that I will mess this up again, that I do not deserve a second chance. But I am more terrified of living the rest of my life without you." She closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. It would be so easy to say yes, to fall back into his arms and pretend the past 5 years had never happened. But she had grown during their time apart, had learned to value herself and her own strength. She could not go back to being the woman who had loved him so much she had lost herself in the process. "I need time," she said, opening her eyes. "I cannot just pick up where we left off. Too much has happened. Too much has changed. Then we will start over." Sebastian's thumbs brushed across her cheekbones. "Let me take you to dinner. Let me court you properly this time, without all the baggage and expectations. Let me show you that I have changed, that we can build something better than what we had before. One dinner, she said, even as her heart raced at the prospect. That is all I am promising. The smile that spread across his face was worth every moment of fear. One dinner is more than I hoped for. They stood there for a long moment, neither wanting to break the connection. Finally, Emma stepped back, needing space to think clearly. I should go. I have work today. What do you do now? Sebastian asked as he walked her to the door. I am an event planner. I have my own small company. She felt a surge of pride saying it. We specialize in non-profit fundraisers and charity events. That is perfect for you. The admiration in his voice sounded genuine. You always had a gift for bringing people together. I learned from the best. My mother always said that creating meaningful experiences for others was the most important work anyone could do. She paused at the door. I will call you about dinner. I will be waiting. Emma left before she could change her mind, before she could throw caution to the wind and kiss him the way every cell in her body was screaming at her to do. In the elevator, she caught sight of her reflection in the mirrored walls. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes bright. She looked alive in a way she had not in years. Over the next few days, Emma tried to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting to Sebastian. She had not called him yet, still wrestling with her decision. Claire had been supportive but honest, reminding Emma that she needed to be sure before diving back into a relationship that had nearly destroyed her the first time. On Thursday afternoon, Emma was at a venue checking preparations for a gala when her phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but she answered anyway. Emma Chen. A woman's crisp voice came through the line. Yes. This is Victoria Mendoza from the Ashford Foundation. We are planning our annual fundraising gala, and we have heard excellent things about your company. Would you be available to meet next week to discuss coordinating the event? Emma's heart skipped. The Ashford Foundation was one of the largest charitable organizations in the country. Landing them as a client would be huge for her business. Yes, absolutely. I would be honored to meet with you. They scheduled a meeting for Tuesday afternoon. After hanging up, Emma did a small victory dance in the empty ballroom, then immediately called Claire to share the news. This is amazing. Claire squealed. Do you know how big this could be for your company? I know. I am trying not to get too excited until the meeting, but this could change everything. Emma paused. Claire, do you think Sebastian had anything to do with this? Would that matter if he did? Emma considered the question. 5 years ago, she would have been insulted, would have seen it as him trying to control her life or implying she could not succeed on her own. But now she wondered if it might be his way of supporting her dreams, of showing that he believed in her. That evening she finally texted him, "Dinner tomorrow night." His response came within seconds. "Yes, I will pick you up at 7. Emma spent an embarrassing amount of time choosing what to wear. She tried on and rejected half her wardrobe, before settling on a simple navy dress that made her feel confident without trying too hard. When 7 o'clock came, she was ready, though her stomach was a knot of nerves. Sebastian arrived exactly on time, looking devastating in dark jeans and a black button-down shirt. He had a bouquet of peonies in his hand, her favorite flowers. The fact that he remembered made her heart squeeze. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes warm with appreciation. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." The smile he gave her was tinged with relief, as though he had been worried she might cancel. Ready to go. He took her to a small Italian restaurant tucked away on a quiet street. It was the kind of place she loved, intimate and cozy rather than flashy and expensive. They were seated at a corner table with candlelight flickering between them. "I cannot believe this place is still here," Emma said, looking around. "We talked about coming here once, but we never made it." I remembered. "I have been keeping tabs on it, making sure it stayed in business." He smiled sheepishly. "That sounds creepy, does it not?" "A little." But she was touched despite herself. "Tell me about your company. Renewable energy is a big shift from Pierce Industries." Sebastian's face lit up as he talked about his work, about the solar farms and wind projects they were developing, about the team he had built and the challenges they had overcome. He spoke with a passion she had rarely seen in him before, and she realized that this work fulfilled him in a way that running his father's company never had. "We just secured funding for a project that will bring clean energy to 3 rural communities," he said. "It is not going to make us rich, but it is going to change lives. That matters more to me than any amount of profit." "I am proud of you," Emma said softly, "for following your own path. It took me too long to figure out what I wanted. And it cost me the person who mattered most." He reached across the table, his hand palm up in invitation. After a moment's hesitation, she placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers, warm and secure. "Tell me about your company. I want to hear everything." So she told him about starting her business, about the struggles and victories, about the satisfaction of helping nonprofits raise money for causes she believed in. She told him about the team she had built, small but dedicated, and about her dreams of expanding to help more organizations. "The Ashford Foundation called me today," she said, watching his reaction carefully. "They want to meet about planning their annual gala." If he had anything to do with it, his face did not betray him. "That is incredible, Emma. You must be thrilled." "I am. It would be a huge opportunity for my company." She paused. "Did you have anything to do with it?" Sebastian met her eyes steadily. "No, I have not had any contact with the Ashford Foundation, but even if I had, it would not matter. They would not consider working with you if you were not brilliant at what you do. Your reputation speaks for itself." She wanted to believe him, and looking into his eyes, she thought she could. They talked through dinner about everything and nothing, falling into the easy conversation they had always shared. By the time dessert arrived, Emma realized she had laughed more in the past few hours than she had in months. "I missed this," she admitted as they walked to his car. "I miss talking to you. I missed everything about you." Sebastian stopped walking and turned to face her. "Emma, I know you need time and I respect that, but I need you to know that I am serious about this, about us. I am not going anywhere this time." Looking up at him in the glow of the streetlights, Emma felt the last of her resistance crumbling. "I missed you too, more than I wanted to admit." He drove her home, and when they reached her building, he walked her to her door like it was a first date. In some ways it was. "Can I see you again?" he asked. "I would like that." He smiled, then leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away. But she did not want to pull away. When his lips brushed against hers, soft and tentative, 5 years of longing flooded through her. She leaned into the kiss, her hands coming up to rest against his chest, feeling his heart racing under her palms. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard. "I should go inside," Emma whispered, but she did not move. "Probably." Sebastian's hand came up to cup her cheek. "Can I call you tomorrow?" "You better." Inside her apartment, Emma leaned against the door, her fingers touching her lips. Claire emerged from her bedroom, took one look at Emma's face and grinned. "That good, huh?" "Claire, what am I doing? I swore I would never let him back into my life." "You are letting yourself be happy," Claire said simply. You are taking a risk on something that matters. That takes courage. Over the next few weeks, Sebastian and Emma fell into a pattern. He would take her to dinner, or they would cook together at her apartment. They would walk through the city, talking about everything they had missed in each other's lives. He met her friends, charming them all despite Claire's initial skepticism. She met his business partner, Marcus, who told her stories about how Sebastian had talked about her constantly over the years. "He has your picture in his office," Marcus said one night when they were all having dinner together. "Has had it there since he started the company. He said you were his reminder of what really matters." Emma glanced at Sebastian, who had the grace to look embarrassed. "I did not realize I was being discussed." "Only in the most complimentary terms," Marcus assured her. "The man is crazy about you, always has been." The Ashford Foundation meeting went better than Emma had dared hope. Victoria Mendoza and her team were impressed with Emma's portfolio and ideas. By the end of the meeting, they had offered her the contract. When she called Sebastian to tell him, he insisted on taking her out to celebrate. "This is all you," he said over champagne that night. "You earned this, Emma. I am so proud of you." It was during moments like these that Emma felt herself falling in love with him all over again. But with the love came fear. She could not shake the memory of how much it had hurt when their relationship fell apart, could not forget the feeling of not being enough. One night, about 6 weeks after Sebastian had shown up at her door, Emma finally voiced her fears. They were at his apartment, curled up on the couch after dinner. "What happens when your father finds out we are together again?" she asked quietly. Sebastian tensed beside her. "He already knows." Emma sat up. "What? How?" "He has people who keep tabs on me. Or rather, he did. I told him last week that if he did not stop interfering in my life, I would cut off all contact with him permanently." He took her hand. "He was not happy, but he knows I am serious this time. My relationship with you is not up for negotiation." "What did he say?" "A lot of things I am not going to repeat. But the important part is that I made it clear you are the most important person in my life, and if he cannot accept that, then we have nothing more to say to each other." He met her eyes. "I am not going to let him hurt you again, Emma. I am not going to let anyone hurt you." Tears pricked at Emma's eyes. "I was so afraid you would choose him over me again." "Never." Sebastian pulled her close. "I am choosing you always. You are my priority, my partner, my future. Everything else is secondary." Emma buried her face in his neck, breathing in his familiar scent. "I love you," she whispered. "I tried so hard not to, but I do. I never stopped. I love you too." He tilted her chin up, his eyes intense. "I am going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt that." When he kissed her, it felt like coming home. They made love that night with a tenderness that took her breath away. And afterward, lying in his arms, Emma felt a peace she had not experienced in years. But their happiness was tested 2 weeks later when Emma's phone rang in the middle of the night. It was a number she did not recognize, but something made her answer. "Emma Chen." A man's cold voice came through the line. "Yes. This is Gregory Pierce. We need to talk." Emma's blood ran cold. Beside her, Sebastian stirred, woken by the sound of her voice. "What do you want?" she asked. "I want you to understand that my son is making a mistake. You are a distraction from his real potential. He walked away from a billion-dollar company for you, and now he is wasting his talents on some idealistic venture that will never amount to anything significant. That is not your decision to make. He belongs with someone from his own world, someone who can help him, not hold him back." Gregory's voice was sharp with disdain. "I am offering you $5 million to walk away from him." Again. Emma felt sick. Did you really just try to buy me off? Everything has a price, Miss Chen. I am not for sale, and neither is your son's happiness. She was shaking with anger now. You need to accept that Sebastian is living his own life, making his own choices. And if you cannot support that, then you do not deserve to be in his life at all. You are going to regret this. The only thing I regret is not telling you 5 years ago what I am telling you now. Sebastian deserves better than a father who sees him as a business asset instead of a human being. Goodbye, Mr. Pierce. She hung up and immediately turned to Sebastian, who was sitting up, his face dark with fury. How much of that did you hear? Enough. He grabbed his phone. I am going to call him right now and tell him that if he ever contacts you again, I am done with him forever. Emma put her hand on his arm. Wait, I need to tell you something first. She took a deep breath. 5 years ago when I left, it was not just because of the pressure. Your father called me to his office. He told me that I was ruining your life, and that if I did not leave, he would use his connections to destroy my career. Violations from and your event. I had joined us from new coordint org ed. Things that could have been explained, but would have looked bad if taken out of context. And had found emptied to make sure I her a self-ever, worked in event. Planning again, Sebastian's face went white. What? I left because I loved you, and I did not want you to have to choose between me and your entire future. But I also left because I was scared, and I did not think you would believe me over him. I thought maybe he was right, that I was not strong enough to be in your world. Tears streamed down her face. I should have told you. I should have given you the chance to fight for us. But I was young and scared, and I made the wrong choice. Sebastian pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. He did that to you, and I did not know. Emma, I am so sorry. I am sorry I did not make you feel safe enough to tell me that you thought I might not believe you. It was not your fault. It was. I made you feel like you were alone in that relationship, like it was you against my family instead of us together against anyone who tried to come between us. He pulled back to look at her. That ends now. I am calling him, and I am making it clear that he will never threaten you or try to manipulate us again. Emma nodded, and Sebastian made the call. From his side of the conversation, she could tell it was heated. Sebastian's voice was cold with controlled fury, as he laid out exactly what would happen if his father ever contacted Emma again, or tried to interfere in their lives. When he hung up, he looked exhausted. I told him we are done, he said quietly. I told him that I do not want his money, his advice, or his presence in my life. I have my own company, my own path, and the woman I love beside me. That is all I need. Sebastian, I do not want to be the reason you lose your family. You are not. He is the reason. He made his choices, and I am making mine. He cupped her face in his hands. You are my family now, Emma. You are my home. And I am not going to let anyone, not even my father, make you feel like you are anything less than the most important person in my world. The next morning, Emma woke up to find Sebastian already awake, watching her with an expression so tender it made her heart ache. Marry me, he said. Emma blinked, wondering if she was still dreaming. What? Marry me? I know it is fast, but we have already wasted 5 years. I do not want to waste another day. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to build a life with you, have children with you, grow old with you. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. I love you, Emma Chen. I have loved you since the moment you laughed when I spilled champagne on your clipboard, and I will love you until my last breath. Will you marry me? Emma felt tears spilling down her cheeks. Yes. Yes, I will marry you. Sebastian kissed her, and it felt like a promise and a celebration all at once. When they finally pulled apart, he reached over to the nightstand and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring, a simple platinum band with a princess-cut diamond that caught the morning light. I have been carrying this around for 2 weeks, he admitted as he slipped it onto her finger. He was moment. His realized that every mo. With you is the right moment. Emma laughed through her tears, looking at the ring on her hand. It was perfect, elegant, exactly what she would have chosen for herself. How did you know my size? I have my ways, he grinned. Okay, I asked Claire. She has been very helpful in the conspiracy to win you back. I knew she was too supportive of this whole thing. They spent the morning in bed, making plans and dreaming about the future. Sebastian wanted a small wedding, just close friends and family. Emma agreed, having no desire for a big society event that would attract media attention and scrutiny. I want it to be about us, she said, not about wealth or status or making some kind of statement, just us, promising to love each other for the rest of our lives. That sounds perfect. They set a date for 3 months away, wanting time to plan but not wanting to wait too long. Claire screamed with joy when Emma told her the news, immediately launching into ideas for the wedding. Emma's parents, who had always liked Sebastian, were thrilled when she called to tell them. We always hoped you two would find your way back to each other, her mother said. Some love is too strong to stay buried. The next few months passed in a blur of happiness. Emma threw herself into planning the Ashford Foundation Gala while also preparing for the wedding. Sebastian's business secured 2 major contracts, putting them firmly in the black and establishing them as a serious player in the renewable energy sector. They moved into a new apartment together, finding a place that felt like theirs rather than his or hers. The Ashford Foundation Gala was a massive success. Emma coordinated every detail flawlessly, and the event raised more money than any previous year. Victoria Mendoza was so impressed that she personally recommended Emma's company to several other major organizations. Within weeks, Emma had more business than she could handle and had to hire 2 additional staff members. I am so proud of you, Sebastian said the night after the gala. You have built something incredible. We have both built something incredible, Emma corrected, and now we get to build a life together. Their wedding day arrived on a perfect Saturday in early September. They were married in a small garden ceremony with 50 of their closest friends and family. Emma wore a simple ivory gown, and Sebastian looked handsome in a dark gray suit. When they exchanged vows, there was not a dry eye in the crowd. I promise to choose you every day, Sebastian said, his voice thick with emotion. I promise to support your dreams, to stand beside you in challenges, to laugh with you in joy, and to love you through everything life brings us. You are my home, Emma. You are my heart. I promise to trust you, Emma said, tears streaming down her face. I promise to communicate openly, to face our challenges together instead of running away. I promise to believe in us, even when things get hard. You are my love, Sebastian. You are my forever. When the officiant pronounced them married and Sebastian kissed her, Emma felt like her heart might burst with happiness. Dreamed of I 5 to dears, SEEU ago. Dream. Because it was real, built on a foundation of trust and communication and hard-won growth. At the reception, Marcus gave a toast that had everyone laughing and crying. I have known Sebastian for 3 years, and in that time, I have watched him build a successful company from nothing. But I have never seen him truly happy until Emma came back into his life. She is his light, his inspiration, his reason for everything he does. And Emma, strongest she-people I have ever met. Together, you two are unstoppable. To the bride and groom. Claire's toast was more emotional. Had I so moved on from the RV of Subvi her life. I watched her throw herself into work, into building a business, into creating a life that looked full but felt empty. And then Sebastian showed up at our door, and I watched her come alive again. Love like this is rare, and you two are lucky to have found it twice. Do not ever let it go again. Emma and Sebastian danced their first dance to a song that had played during their first date years ago. As they swayed together, Emma rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. Happy, Sebastian murmured into her hair, happier than I ever thought possible. This is just the beginning, you know. We have our whole lives ahead of us. Emma looked up at him, seeing her future reflected in his eyes. I cannot wait. 1 year later, Emma stood in the nursery of their new house, painting the walls a soft yellow. They had bought the house 6 months ago, a beautiful craftsman with a big backyard and plenty of room for a family. When she had found out she was pregnant 2 months ago, Sebastian had cried with joy. You are going to be an amazing mother, he had said, his hand on her still flat stomach. Now, at 5 months pregnant, her belly was starting to show. She heard Sebastian come home from work and smiled as his footsteps hurried up the stairs. You are supposed to be resting, he said, taking the paintbrush from her hand. I can finish this. I was resting all day. I needed to do something productive. Growing our child is productive. He kissed her forehead. But I will let you supervise while I paint. They worked together, Emma sitting in the rocking chair while Sebastian finished painting the walls. They talked about names and debated the merits of various parenting philosophies. Emma watched him, this man who had fought so hard to win her back, who had changed his entire life to be with her, and felt overwhelming gratitude. I love you, she said suddenly. Sebastian looking around turned to her. This is crazy, this is the GRINNED. I love you too, Eve, though. You are very bossy about paint application techniques. Someone has to make sure you do it right. Their daughter, Lily, was born on a snowy January morning. She had Sebastian's gray eyes and Emma's dark hair, and both of them fell instantly, completely in love with her. Sebastian took paternity leave from his company, wanting to be present for every moment of their daughter's early life. I missed so much of life before because I was trying to meet someone else's expectations, he said one night as he held Lily while Emma dozed on the couch. I am not going to miss this. I am not going to miss any of it. Emma's business continued to thrive, and Sebastian's company expanded into new markets. They were busy and sometimes exhausted, but they were happy. They made it a point to have date nights every week, to communicate openly about challenges, to never let work or stress come between them. Years but after Lily was not the born, Emma found out she was pregnant again. This time it was twin boys, and their house became even more chaotic and wonderful. Sebastian proved to be an incredible father, patient and playful, always willing to get down on the floor and build block towers, or read stories for the 100th time. One evening when the kids were finally asleep and Emma and Sebastian were collapsed on the couch, Emma's phone rang. It was a number she did not recognize, but she answered anyway. Emma. An uncertain voice came through the line. "This is Gregory Pierce." Emma tensed immediately. Sebastian, seeing her expression, sat up. "What do you want?" Emma asked, her voice cold. "I want to apologize." The words seemed to cost him. "I have been a stubborn fool, and I have missed years of my son's life because of my pride. I work Sebastians at a company, being one of the top inhiation sur renewable downtown energy firms in the country. I saw the picture of you and him and your children. You all looked so happy." Emma did not know what to say. "I was wrong about you," Gregory continued. "You were not a distraction or a hindrance. You were exactly what my son needed. Follow his and own path, and he is more successful now than he ever would have been following in my footsteps. And Maya had gotten faten evenis, a salad, but I am stila a few of ass. Like to meet my mommy always share with me, a ndchildren, will so I owe it share with her." Emma looked at Sebastian, who was watching her with an unreadable expression. She put the phone on speaker. "Dad." Sebastian said. "Sebastian." Gregory's voice cracked. I am sorry for the way I treated Emma, for the ultimatums and threats, for trying to control your life. I was wrong about everything. I let pride and tradition blind me to what really mattered. You have built something remarkable, and you have a beautiful family. I would very much like to be a part of it if you will let me." Asmant, hand here letting him know that whatever he decided, she would support him. "You hurt Emma," Sebastian finally said. "You tried to buy her off and threatened her career. You made her feel like she was not good enough. That is not something I can just forgive. I know, and I do not expect you to. I am hoping for a chance to make amends, to show you both that I have changed. But if you do not want me in your lives, I will understand." Sebastian looked at Emma. "What do you think?" Emma thought about her own parents, about how much joy they got from their grandchildren. Life was, how forgiveness was not about forgetting but about moving forward. "I think everyone deserves a second chance," she said slowly. "But there have to be boundaries. Our children come first, and if you ever try to manipulate or control us again, you are out of our lives for good." "I understand," Gregory said. "Thank you." "Thank you both." They arranged for him to visit the following weekend. It was awkward at first, Gregory clearly uncomfortable and uncertain how to interact with small children. But as Lily showed him her drawings and the twins babbled at him, something in the older man seemed to soften. By the end of the visit, he had tears in his eyes. "Thank you for this," he said to Emma as he was leaving. "I know I do not deserve it. We all make mistakes," Emma said. "What matters is whether we learn from them." Over time, Gregory became a regular presence in their lives. He was not perfect, and sometimes his old controlling tendencies would surface, but he was trying. He and Sebastian slowly began to rebuild their relationship, finding common ground in business discussions and shared love for the children. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Sebastian surprised Emma with a trip to Paris, somewhere they had always talked about going but never had the chance. They spent a week wandering the city, eating amazing food, visiting museums, and remembering what it was like to just be a couple rather than parents and business owners. One evening, as they sat at a cafe watching the sunset, Sebastian took her hand. "5 years ago, you took a chance on me when you had every reason not to," he said. "You let me back into your life even though I had hurt you. You believed that people can change, that love is worth fighting for. You gave me the greatest gift anyone has ever given me, a second chance." "You gave me the same gift," Emma said. "You fought for us when I was too scared to. You showed me that love is not about being perfect, it is about choosing each other even when things are hard." "I choose you," Sebastian said. "Today, tomorrow, always. I choose you too." They kissed as the sun set over Paris. Two people who had found their way back to each other and built something stronger than either had imagined possible. 10 years after Sebastian had shown up at Emma's door, they sat on their back porch watching their children play in the yard. Lily was 12 now, graceful with her at the cheerers' fathers, INTELLIGENCE in repli, and her MOTHERS. Creativity. The twins, Jack and Noah, were rambunctious 8-year-olds who kept everyone on their toes. Of the premier, he's perfect event planning firms in the country, specializing in large-scale fundraisers that had helped countless nonprofits. Sebastian's renewable energy company was now operating in 15 countries, providing clean energy to millions of people. They had both achieved success beyond their wildest dreams, but they both agreed that their greatest achievement was the family they had built together. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I had not shown up that night?" Sebastian asked, his arm around Emma's shoulders. "Sometimes," Emma admitted. "But then I realized that we were always going to find our way back to each other. Maybe not that night, but eventually. Some connections are too strong to stay broken forever. I am glad I did not wait to find out. I am glad I fought for you." Emma leaned into him, watching the sun set over their backyard, over the life they had built together through love and forgiveness and unwavering commitment. It had not always been easy. About CHALLENGES and DISAGREEMENT DISOZAGS. Fears had resurfaced, or when the stress of balancing careers and family had felt overwhelming. But they had faced everything together, and that had made all the difference. "Mama, Daddy, come play with us," Lily called from where she was pushing the twins on the swing set. "Looked I don't get each other." Then they stood up, hand in hand, chillara toward the beautiful, messy, created together. It had taken losing each other to realize what they had. It had taken pain and growth and time apart to become the people who could make their relationship work. But standing there in their backyard, surrounded by the evidence of their love and commitment, Emma knew that every moment of struggle had been worth it. She had ghosted a billionaire years ago because she had been too afraid to fight for what they had. SHOW, and up at Hearns a sea door AUGHT, her asking for one more chance because he had finally learned that some things were worth fighting for. And together, they had built a love story that was better than any fairy tale because it was real, imperfect, hard-won, and absolutely true. As Sebastian pulled her close and kissed her while their children cheered and laughed, Emma thought about that scared girl who had left a note and run away from the hardest thing she had ever faced. She wished she could tell that girl that it would be okay, that love was worth the risk, that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was stay and fight. But she did not need to tell her anything, because she was no longer that scared girl. She was a woman who had learned that love was not about being fearless. Love okay anyway, but nothing falling down and getting back up was about giving, second chances, and believing in growth and change. It was about showing up at someone's door and asking for one more chance, and it was about being brave enough to say yes. And in the end, that yes had led to everything Emma had ever wanted: a partner who cherished her, children who filled her days with joy, work that fulfilled her, and a life rich with love and meaning. That evening, after the children were in bed, Emma and Sebastian sat together in their living room, showed him the Planii Paradisi and ERVOUSSKETC8 ES for an event she was planning about a new project in South America that could bring electricity to remote villages for the first time. What? Upcoming piano recital. And whether the twins were ready for soccer lessons. They talked about ordinary things, daily life things, the kind of conversation that might seem mundane to outsiders but was precious to them, because it represented the life they had built together. Later, as they got ready for bed, Sebastian paused to look at Emma, really look at her, the way he still did after all these years. "What?" Emma asked, smiling at his expression. "I was just thinking about how lucky I am, how easily I could have lost you forever if you had not given me another chance." "You did not just show up and I said yes," Emma reminded him. "You proved yourself. You showed me that you had changed, that you were willing to fight for us. That made all the difference. And you were brave enough to trust again. That took courage." Emma thought about that night when he had appeared at her door, how her first instinct had been to slam it in his face and protect her heart. She was so glad she had not listened to that instinct, that she had been willing to risk being hurt again for the possibility of happiness. "The best things in life require courage," she said, sliding into bed beside him. "You taught me that." Sebastian pulled her close, rested her head on his hatching her chet, listening to his R heartbeating the people streaming around them. It was a sound that had become as familiar to her as her own breathing, a rhythm that meant safety and home and love. "I love you, Emma Pierce," he murmured into her hair. "I love you too." Off to MODERNSLEEP, surrounded by the warmth of her husband's arms and the sounds of their children breathing softly in nearby rooms, she felt a profound sense of contentment. Her life had not turned out the way she had planned, but it had turned out better than she could have imagined. She CHFELATNCES were LIKE she could reaf, that people could change, that love could survive even when it seemed broken beyond repair. She had learned that running away from fear only delayed happiness, that courage was not the absence of fear but the decision to move forward despite it. Most importantly, she had learned that the best love stories were not about perfect people finding each other. They were about imperfect people choosing each other, day after day, through challenges and triumphs, through mistakes and forgiveness, through all the beautiful messiness of building a real life together. And as she fell asleep in Sebastian's arms, Emma knew that she would choose him every day for the rest of her life, just as he would choose her. They had been given a second chance, and they had made the most of it, building something stronger and more beautiful than what they had lost. Their love story had started with a spilled glass of champagne and a laugh. It had been interrupted by fear and pride and outside pressure. But it had been reborn through courage and honesty and unwavering commitment. And now it would continue, day by day, year by year, through whatever joys and challenges life brought them. Love was, not a Farob's OBSERVED, IS ending my choice. Not Perfection, but persistence. Not the absence of problems, but the commitment to face them together. Sebastian had shown up at her door asking for one more chance. Emma had been brave enough to give it to him. And together, they had created a forever that was worth every moment of pain it had taken to get there. That was their story. Messy, real, hard-won, and absolutely perfect in its imperfection. And Emma would not change a single moment of it, because every joy and every hardship had led them here, to this life, to this love, to this perfect, ordinary, extraordinary moment of lying in bed together, husband and wife, partners in everything, ready to face whatever tomorrow would bring. Together, always together,